Hey there folks, Tim Slade here from the eLearning Designers Academy. In today's video, we're going to take a look at one of my absolute favorite instructional design processes and how you can apply it when designing and developing an e-learning course. And that's action mapping. So stick around. In the past, I've talked about how there are many different instructional design models like ADDIE and SAM, which are all very popular and you can use for your e-learning projects. But the problem with these models is that there's nothing inherent about them that actually helps you design performance-based e-learning. And in fact, they're more like project management models rather than instructional design models, in my opinion. However, years and years and years ago, I was introduced to a process called action mapping. And I'll be honest, it changed the way I approached not only the design and the development of the e-learning projects I was working on, but also it changed the way I started approaching any training project I was working on. Now, if you're not familiar with action mapping, it's a process that was created by Cathy Moore as a way to analyze a performance issue, identify potential training and non-training solutions, and design performance-based activities to challenge your learners to put skills into practice. And of course, for those of you out there familiar with backwards design, I'd say action mapping is a very similar concept. Now, before I continue, I'll put some links down in the description to Cathy's website, along with a link to her awesome book, Map It, where you can go into tons of detail about the process. So why would you want to create an action map, and how can you use it when designing e-learning? Well, as Cathy so eloquently puts it on her website, most corporate training is an info dump. And she's absolutely right. The creation of most training starts by identifying what learners need to know, or be aware of, or understand. And ultimately, that results in us as instructional designers creating courses that are full of nice to know facts or information that doesn't really get to the heart of what learners need to do on the job. And this is what makes action mapping such an awesome process, is that rather than focusing on what learners need to know, it shifts the focus towards what learners need to actually do in order to achieve a desired business goal. And of course, it then helps you identify possible training activities you can create to teach those behaviors. So how do you go about creating an action map for whatever it is that you're creating training or an e-learning course on? Well, the first, and what I think is the most important step, is to identify the business goal. This is where you need to work with your stakeholders and subject matter experts to fully understand why they want training. What exact issue or issues are they seeing that ultimately resulted in them requesting training in the first place? Now, as I've talked about before, one way to answer this question is by conducting a needs analysis to identify what learners are doing, what you want them doing, and why they aren't doing it. And this can help you identify what performance gaps are being experienced and why they exist. So, for example, if you're creating training for call center employees, a good business goal might be to increase product sales by 10% by, the end of the year. What you want to avoid is creating a goal that's focused on what learners need to know. So for example, understanding features of a product. Now, by identifying a specific business goal that you want to achieve, it helps you focus what's really important in order to achieve that goal. And it gives you something tangible that you can go back to and use to measure the effectiveness of your training. So once you've identified your business goal, to start creating your action map, you want to put that smack dab in the center. All right, so after you've identified the business goal you want to achieve, you might be wondering if it's time to identify what your learners need to know in order to achieve that goal, right? Well, no, not at all. The second step for creating an action map is to identify the specific actions learners need to take or perform in order to achieve that business goal. Again, remember, the purpose in creating performance-based e-learning, or any training for that matter, is to focus not on what learners need to know, but what they need to do. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times before, knowledge and behavior aren't mutually exclusive. Just because people know more doesn't mean they're going to do more. So if we go back to our call center training example, what are some actions learners might need to take in order to achieve the business goal of increasing product sales? Well, it might be asking open-ended probing questions to uncover a customer's needs, or qualifying a customer for the appropriate product, or highlighting the benefits that'll best help fulfill the customer's needs. Now, once you've identified all of these actions and behaviors, usually in collaboration with your subject matter experts, or maybe by conducting a task analysis, then you can list all of these on your action map around your business goal. Now, before we continue, one of the things I love about Cathy Moore's action mapping is that she emphasizes that not all things are fixed with training. And so as you identify each task the learner needs to take to complete the desired business goal, you also need to identify why learners aren't doing the things you want them to do. Yes, while the gap in performance may be caused by a lack of knowledge or skill, which can be fixed with training, if the issue is caused by a lack of motivation or there's something wrong with the performance environment, those might require different types of interventions. And of course, it doesn't mean you don't list these items on your action map, but you have to be aware that they may require different solutions. All right, so you've identified your business goal, and you've identified what people need to do in order to achieve that business goal. Is it now time to identify what people need to know? Not so fast. The third step for creating an action map is to design practice activities that will help learners put into practice the specific actions you identified in the second step. Now, this is where you need to start thinking about how you're actually going to create training that helps learners do the thing you want them to do. Now, for example, if you were creating an in-person workshop, that might be a series of role-playing scenarios or something similar. But on the other hand, if you're creating an e-learning course, then you need to start thinking about how you'll bring these actions to life in a digital format. So for example, rather than creating a bunch of click-to-reveal interactions that simply reveal additional content, or a bunch of knowledge checks and quiz questions that really only serve to, maybe promote knowledge retention, what you want to focus on is creating performance-based interactions. So if we go back to our call center example, that might mean presenting the learner with a branching scenario where the learner needs to identify questions to ask to uncover the customer's needs, or maybe they need to select an appropriate response to help overcome common objections a customer may present. In either case, these types of interactions are what help the learner not only use their critical thinking skills, but also it allows them to see the outcomes of their actions. Again, it's about promoting behaviors, not just knowledge. Okay, so once you've identified some practice activities to support the tasks necessary to achieve the business goal, you can put those on your action map. All right, so you've identified a business goal, defined what people need to do in order to achieve that goal, and ideated on some possible activities to help the learner practice those behaviors. Is it now time to identify what people need to know? Well, sort of. The final and fourth step in creating an action map is to identify what people really, really need to know, and nothing more. When identifying what knowledge learners need, what you want to do is restrict it to the minimal amount of information the learner needs to perform the necessary task. And that means you don't need to go into a bunch of fun facts or useless information that doesn't have a direct correlation to the behaviors being taught. All right, so once you've identified the essential information, you can then put that on your action map. And remember, everything is about supporting the business goal and the tasks or behaviors needed to achieve that goal. And so if your stakeholders try to get you to include information that doesn't directly support an activity or behavior, it doesn't get included in your action map. It's that simple. Now, by the time you're done, you'll have something that looks like this, starting with a business goal in the middle, tasks or behaviors that need to be taken to achieve that business goal, practice activities that you can create to help learners practice those tasks or behaviors, and finally, the minimal amount of information necessary to complete those activities. All right, so that's what an action map is and an overview of how to create one. Taking the time to create an action map in partnership with your subject matter experts lets you move forward in the creation of your training, whether it's an e-learning course or something else, with a clear understanding of the goal you're trying to achieve, what actions need to be taken to achieve that goal, and what's the best way to train learners on those actions. Now, I definitely encourage you to check out Cathy Moore's website and book with the links down in the description. And of course, this leads me to my question of the day. Do you use action mapping in the creation of e-learning or other training? If so, what do you like about it, and how has it helped you design better learning content? Share your thoughts by commenting below. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below if you'd like to get alerted the next time I publish a video like this one. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about designing and developing e-learning that actually gets results, or simply about growing your e-learning career, make sure to check out the e-learning Designers Academy at elearningacademy.io. My name is Tim Slade, and until next time, I'll see you around.